welcome back to the homestead and Shedwars22, Northern Hemisphere. Gardening season for most of us are starting right now. Around here, well, winter has come back for another puff, but it's late March. That's normal. They say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. I don't really like that saying because it's kind of negative in my opinion. It suggests that you actually missed the best time. But if you're a new gardener, the best time for anything you're doing is ASAP, as soon as possible. And speaking of sap, sap is one of those products that we can harvest from trees. Normally we would harvest sap from maple trees, or that's the most popular one, I should say. And that being said, the sugar maple is the one that has the highest concentration of sugars in the sap, hence the name sugar maple. This is just your common maple here. Kind of puzzling. They say for a maple, your tree trunk should be at least 10 inches, 10 to 12 inches across for one tap. Now, it's kind of difficult to look back and say, well, is this 10 inches, right? A tree in diameter is roughly a circle. And the circumference of a circle is pi times the diameter. So if you multiply 10 by 3.1514, you'll get approximately 31.4 inches. You take a cloth measuring tape, just your typical seamstress measuring tape, and measure the circumference. At about 4 feet up, and you can see this is only 28 inches. I have quite a few maple trees growing on the property right now, but this is the biggest one. This is the biggest chunk. I have two more trunks here that are a little smaller. So according to the recommendations, I shouldn't be tapping this maple tree. I did, however, tap it several years ago now. I said I'm going to tap it anyway, and I ended up with a liter of maple syrup. I had put this on my previous videos. Actually, I mentioned this, but you can see I put the tappy in here, and the branch cracked bark up there and way down low. I came out a couple of days ago and I noticed that it's completely sealed off now. Here's another one, and the bark is completely sealed. So the tree is pretty much healed from the damage I done to it, but that'll be a mark there now for as long as this tree lives. I'm not going to tap that. I'm going to go by recommendations. A maple is about 40 to 1 with the sap. That is, you take the sap, 40 gallons of sap will give you 1 gallon of syrup. Birch. They say you can tap birch. It's going to take 100 to 1. So 100 gallons of birch gives you 1 gallon of syrup, or 100 liters of birch to give 1 liter of syrup. A little less than half of what you will get from a maple. So I need twice as much sap. However, as you just seen, I have one maple that I could maybe tap, but it's iffy. Birch, on the other hand, they're a dime a dozen. Okay, I couldn't get a place to set you up a little back further, so hopefully this works. The other thing about birch is that they say it only needs to be 8 inches across, which gives you a circumference of 25 inches. This birch is 45.5 inches around and at about 4 feet up. I have these type of spiles, they're called, the taps that you put into your trees, and you normally hang the bucket on here. So this is the old-fashioned style. Nowadays you can get the ones that just come out and you hook a food grade plastic hose onto, but this was what was available when I went to purchase them. Take a 5/8 drill bit, and in about 2 inches, so this is why I have this tape on here, is because that tells me where to stop. The sap starts to run when your daytime highs are consistently above 4 or 5 degrees. Also, of course, on the south side here in the northern hemisphere, it'll be on the north side in the southern hemisphere, would be the warmest side of the tree. So this side will have the sap running before the opposite side from where I'm standing. Here I'm sloped downhill, facing directly south there. This is the warmest part in the garden, and we have in the forecast all above 0 temperatures. The lowest actually is 2 degrees Celsius for the next 2 weeks. So the sap is going to start to run at any time now, and that's why I decided to do this video now. So you take your drill and angle it slightly up. So you start it. Now I got to angle it slightly up. Just making sure the hole is clear. Well, you see, I have this, this is a really stiff wire I had. I got it made into 2 little hooks. Tap it in until it seats nicely. Don't force it. Of course, with the plastic ones you'll break it before you hurt the tree anyway, but with the metal ones you could probably damage the tree. Now what I've got done with this, I've got a hole put in here, and then 2 little holes here where the hooks on that wire is going to go in. The reason I did this is because, as I said, okay, it's the other one I'm supposed to be using on this one. Now you can get the ones that you can hook that pipe up to, and everything is fairly closed in. But if you were to just hang a bucket off of that hook like the old-fashioned way, and then you have a kind of a teepee shaped thing over the top, then there's a lot of opening. This way it closed up fairly well. That is stiff. I don't think that will fall off. If it does, I'll have to figure something else out. It's more protected in here. When I had them down on the maple, I had to actually tie them on because the wind would just blow them right off. But I think that'll sit nicely there. And I'll come out every day and check, and if there's any significant amount of sap in there, then I'll empty it and go on to the next one. At 48 inches in circumference, this is the biggest birch tree I have. But as I said, they only need to be 8 inches diameter, 25 inches in circumference, so I have lots of birch trees. Well, I'm going to tap this one, and I only have 2 taps here. Somewhere I have a bag. I think I had 10 taps in all. I have to find my other taps and some more containers that I can make into a fairly closed off container to harvest sap. Hanging there nicely. Now, as I don't know if I already said it, but this is my first time tapping birch, so we'll have to, when I get enough, I think I got enough sap to be significant, then I'll do another video and we'll boil this down into a birch syrup. The sap of a black spruce. I should have had a knife with me. You see that? Now, if you can get a big enough piece where it's clean, and I think that's a piece in there, but you see it dry just like amber. You get that when it's not completely dry. And if you like the taste of spruce, if you know about spruce tip tea, tastes the same. You can use it for chewing gum. But I would say this is way too dry. So this time of year, it's not good, but in the spring, you get damaged trees like this. And like I say, you'll get some more fresh sap that's coming out, and you can use it as chewing gum. Fir, some more than others, has a lot of sap. You've heard of new skin, I assume. That stuff that it's only good for scrapes, really. But what we call myrrh, that stuff can glue together a fairly good cut. I have a uncle that, on a little lapse of attention once, cut the top of his finger, the skin, cut a hole in the skin. He reached in under a lawnmower when I was running. And my grandmother was alive then. She said, get some myrrh, which is the sap from a fir tree, and she coated it over and then just put a cloth over that, and it just sealed the entire tip of his finger right off, and it healed back nicely. The other thing is, if you had a single cut, like if I were to cut my finger down this way, I could put more there and just even just put a string around to hold the skin together, and had that dried, it would glue the skin right back together. This is a very nice tree to have on your property. I think that finishes my video for today. That was your Shedwars tips, the very first one of 2022. For those of you who live a long ways from the population centers and you're surrounded by lots of trees, don't forget you have alternatives. Just because you don't have the traditional doesn't mean you have to do without. So instead of maple syrup, we're going with birch syrup. And I just mentioned the other two that you could when you're out and about. There are a lot of things in nature and probably already growing on your property that you can make use of with respect to tree sap. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something new. And yeah, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video.